Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of the CCA California podcast. Good to be with you another week. We certainly appreciate all of you hanging out with us. Tony, you are joining us virtually today. How are you?
I am. I'm doing well. We had quite the month of May, huh? Into June.
I'm still recovering. We had, I think, however many events in a row, 4 or 5, whatever the number is, and now we're heading into June, which isn't letting up, but at least we get to go fishing, so that's good.
Yeah, we get to go fishing. We're very lucky.
Yeah. For in my case, first time in almost a year with having kids and all that.
It's been that long.
Yeah, since July. It's been crazy.
Why would you do that to yourself?
When you have a kid, thank God he's cute as hell. So anyway, joining us today, great friend of the podcast, Mr. Robby Gant from AFTCO. Robby, welcome back, man. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get started here. I know let's go back to Sunday. Sunday, we spent quite a bit of time together at the 2024 MDRA Marina Del Rey Anglers Halibut Derby. Overall, what'd you think, man?
Yeah, pretty awesome event. My first time being at that event, but really cool to see the direction that event's going with the live release and stuff. Like the winner of the event, caught a halibut, figured out how to keep it alive, jammed into the weigh-in, weighed it, to make sure he got the release to get the extra. So I mean that's really cool to see.
Which, by the way, happened to be another friend of the podcast and CCA marketing chair, Jim Hendricks.
Yeah, so that was awesome. So I think that fish was like 29.9 pounds. Yeah, and then. And he actually had like a 27-pounder too on Saturday, I believe. So he did really well in the event. Well, he got all the hardware at the awards deal.
Got like all 3 big trophies and all that, plus a whole bunch of raffle items too.
Yeah. So no, but it was cool to see. I think there was almost 80 anglers that participated in the event. A lot of enthusiasm. Just overall, I think it was a great tournament, and it's always just fun to see anglers, in that type of an environment, right? And they're just really out there to have a good time. I mean, it's not I don't believe it's a cash event or it's all just prizes and awards and stuff. And I think that really makes tournaments better because then you're out there for the right reasons. You're out there just to go fish and enjoy the day and have camaraderie with your buddies. And I've fished some big cash events in the past, and it's more stuffy, right?
It's intense.
Yeah, right. So, but no, it was really cool. We had, that area down there, Marina Del Rey was beautiful, right on the water. Nice building where we had, piles of raffle prizes, and there was tons and tons of silent auction items. And I want to say, the MDRA, they really put on a pretty decent show there. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think this is year number 3 that we've been involved, and I think a couple years ago they had asked us to be involved to help them out with it, and in return they're basically donating at least half the proceeds back to CCA, which is a good thing. Good things all around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, the CCA, we need every penny we can possibly get our hands on in
every single
MDRA for doing that. That just shows what an outstanding organization the MDRA is. To be willing to do something like that. So that's great. And for all those that are listening to the podcast, check it out. It was a really fun event. It doesn't cost a ton of money. It's a great weekend. And I just ask, that, you participate next year. And if you don't have a boat, that deal on the Betty-O is pretty cool, right? So you can go out on the Betty-O and he'll bring you to all the hot spots. And I want to say the 3rd place fish this year was actually caught on the Betty-O.
I was going to say that's cool. They placed this year.
Yeah, so you don't.
Yeah,
have
there's a whole sport boat category.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was newly introduced for this year, just to give those guys a shot.
Yeah, I mean it's not you're not out of the game or you're not disadvantaged by going on the Betty-O. It's legit.
It's almost an advantage, right? He's out there every day.
Yeah, exactly. So all good things this weekend. But overall, I know, I think last year we may have had you on the podcast, but how have you been? What's going on? What's new with you, man?
Yeah, same. Just plugging along. We have ICAST, which is our big trade show coming up here in July. So that's always, the big stress is making sure we've got, all of the right samples and we're getting the booth dialed in. And, the marketing department at AFTCO's awesome. I mean, those guys got it dialed. So they, the big giant booth and doing the layouts and what have you. We had a really cool sales meeting a month ago. Down in Mexico, so that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
But just plugging away. I actually get to fish here coming up, so that's new, just like you.
Nice.
Don't get to get on the water as much as I used to, but that's by design. It's not necessarily just work, but I have kids that are very active, and they're at the ages where I just don't want to miss events, and fishing will be there. When they're done with school, and that's when I'm going to start fishing. But there are a few events that I do every year, and those are in the books, so I don't care what comes up or falls on those days. But I'm gonna fish. I have the tuna tournament for the Tuna Club of Avalon, and then we'll do the Master Billfish tournament, which is an absolute blast, and that's going to be huge this year. The group of guys that put that on. Kind of just told themselves we want to rebuild this to where it used to be back in the 90s, early 2000s, where it had a lot of boats. The last several years it's been 20 boats, 25 boats, kind of, for the Masters, right? It's the big tournament for the West. But every club up and down the coast has, said they were going to put in at least one boat, if not 2, 3, or 4. So we should have a really, really big deal there at that event. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
Then I'll do the War Heroes this year if my boat doesn't break.
That's been the case like the last 2 years.
I think. 2 years back to back, which is unfortunate, but I think which just shows how great of a job that Anthony Shea's team does, where they've got backup plans to where 2 years ago our boat broke down as we picked up our veterans. Like, they were on the boat. We were getting ready to go in the parade, and we lost a transmission.
I remember you had called me like as you were heading home. It's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be fishing.
Yeah, so that was brutal. And then this last year, the day before the event, a turbo went out. That's just part of fishing. But the cool thing is, Rod Halpern there at War Heroes knows exactly what to do, so it's not like anybody had to stay at the dock. Just a couple other boats got an extra guy, but there's a lot of big boats out there that can handle that. I think I've got a good buddy of mine. I help him on some trips. He's got a big 72-foot Viking, so I hit him up earlier this year. I introduced him to Rod and the group at the PCS show. That you got to get involved with this. This is a huge deal, and he's got the right boat for it, right? So when we can pack on 3 or 4 guys easy and go enjoy the trip. So and outside of that, then my season's done, and I'll be looking for next year's fishing trips.
Nice. And that's all aside from everything going on with AFTCO and all the new products that you've been having a hand in and all that stuff. Every single year it seems like something new's coming out, and something not only new but effective too. Yeah.
We introduced the I think we want to go back to even like the fluorocarbon, and it's been just an ongoing growth pattern for us, and more guys are starting to fish it and like it. So that's been great. And then a couple of years after that, we introduced a whole line of lures, and that started off pretty well this last season, and already this season it's going pretty good. But for us, it's caught on the East Coast. So I got our sales meeting. We were talking to some of the reps, and how's lure sales going for you guys? And it's going. Jerkbait's this and swimmer that and this. So that's really cool to hear that it's growing in popularity throughout the country.
Were you expecting that to be doing so well on the East Coast as opposed to the West Coast?
Yeah. It's the saltwater lure, just saltwater in general. It normally takes more time for things to grow. Where in like the freshwater bass world, normally if you introduce something, you'll know pretty quick if it's a hero or a zero. in the saltwater world, the guys are so hard to get to transition off what they're currently using to pick up something new. So normally the growth pattern, it's a lot longer, like bell curve, right? So it just takes more time for guys to adapt and to get the space at the retail and get guys to use it and all that kind of stuff. So it takes time. So I want to say we're pretty much on pace from what I was thinking. We introduced them, beginning of last year. So we're only really in year 2. So it's doing quite well. So pretty stoked with that.
Nice.
I mean, thinking about our fishery here on the West Coast, it's such a niche fishery, especially with our bluefin and just the variety of species and the biodiversity that we have out here. So I can imagine, as we see a lot of smaller bait, lure, plastic, hard jig companies out here that are specifically tailored to the Southern California West Coast fishery. I mean, I can't imagine the pressure of a company like AFTCO saying, we're going to do that, but we also want to make it from both sides of the US. So, when you guys go through the process of testing and marketing these jigs, are you just kind of throwing them out there to the East Coast and the West Coast and just seeing what takes? Or is there some methodology behind, well, this could work here in the West Coast, but we can also see it working on the East Coast?
Yeah, it's a pretty massive market study that you do, basically starting off in the Northeast and then working your way down the Atlantic coast and then into the Gulf and then obviously out west. Just seeing what they're currently, using lure-wise, right? Is it metal jigs? Is it, hard plastic baits? Is it soft plastic baits? There's inshore, then there's offshore. The inshore fishery we have here, we think of calico bass, and that's all we really have, and it's really limited to. Not a lot of people fish calico bass out west versus you go to the East Coast to their inshore thing and you start talking about redfish and it's gigantic. So we kind of knew going in that the lures that we wanted to build were designed to catch fish globally. So they weren't necessarily specific to a certain, region. And I think that's what you have to do to be really successful in the lure business. You can't rely on
specific market.
I mean, if you did lures for Southern California bluefin, and that was how you're going to make money for the year is lures for bluefin tuna, and the bluefin tuna don't bite a lure that year or they don't show up, you're kind of out of business. And so you've really got to watch out for that. And fisheries are fickle all over the country, right? So like was it 2015 was like just a perfect storm of every fishery in the country was perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And, and then since then we've had, our fishery here is still on the up and up, but it's still not what it was in 15, which was unbelievable, but still the best we've ever seen prior to 2015 or I've ever seen.
I mean, we were getting species that traditionally, like, you don't see here. You just don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in 2000, I had 2 fish I never ever thought I would catch. I got a wahoo and a short bill spearfish in 2015. And would have never thought I would have caught them. I mean, the wahoo, we knew they were there. Yeah. So we went for that one and got it. So we had some inside intel there, so I got the call like on a Wednesday that some guys were down in the Box Canyon area and they saw them. So I put together a group of guys and we went out and just plowed the fields all day long and got the bite. And then the short bill, we're marlin fishing, and that's kind of just how you catch them. And came in and ate a jig, and that was pretty cool. But I mean, just conditions. Florida's dealing with wind, or they have like their versions of red tide, and the Northeast has all of their different quirks with weather conditions and patterns and what have you, and that kind of really dictates like the tackle business. It's such weather based. Type of a deal to where, if the weather's bad, no one's going fishing. That means no one's buying fishing tackle, right? And when fishing is good, and even if the economy's down, if fishing is good, people still go fishing, right? Yeah. And then they still buy, maybe not as much, or maybe they may not buy a new rod and reel, but, at least they're going fishing and they're supporting the industry. But yeah, so I think we're all pretty proud of the lure business and where it's gotten to, and it's it's growing, and we're continually looking at building new lures and new colorways and what have you. So that's been exciting. And the other big thing for us, we got into the bag business,
Yeah.
this last year. And so we're just continuing to grow, that category. So we had, like the Urban Angler backpack, which was just an awesome,
That's the surf angler one, right?
yeah, but it's so much more than just surf, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to the Sierras, I use it. I take my son to this little pond by my house on the weekends, and it's just the perfect size. It holds like a Plano 3600. It holds a Plano 3500. It's got some pages in there to put plastics and what have you, and super lightweight. Throw it on my back, and I can pound the bank, and I've got it all right there. I'm not lugging around a giant tackle box or tackle bag or whatever when I'm going down to the pond for a couple hours, and it's just super convenient.
It's totally my style. I've been going towards more like minimalistic, to where I'm only bringing maybe a 3600, maybe two. That's about it.
Yeah, and that's when I was doing like the studies for that. I was watching like a bunch of YouTube videos and watching these guys. And these guys are primarily like back east, like Texas, Florida, whatever, in their Groms. So like sub 18, but they're driving. And they would pull into the lake or the pond when they're fishing, and they've got this just giant tackle bag. Every one of them, and they'd show themselves with their 2 or 3 rods in this giant tackle bag, and they'd walk down to the edge of the pond, and they would set the tackle bag down, and next thing you know, they would be on the other side of the pond, and they would break off, and their other 2 rods and their tackle bag was on the other side of the pond, so they'd have to hike all the way back over to re-rig, and I'm like, man, we got to fix that.
Yeah.
Right. So we put an additional rod carrier on the backpack, so you can have your backup rod there, but you can have the gear that you need for that day, right? Because if you really dial it in, like you're talking about, you don't need that much stuff. But as an angler, you always think you need tons.
Yeah.
But if you just, I just need my confidence baits. So you throw those in the bag. That's all you need for the day. You're good to go, right? I mean, God knows how many times I've gone on trips and I've had big giant tackle bag full of Plano 3700s, and that's just like surface iron. It's like, how many surface irons do I need?
That one guy who fills the entire landing cart.
Yeah, right. Well, that was me. I'd have all the plastics, and I have a giant thing of jerk baits and swimmers and swim baits, and just it's just over the top. And you really think about, after that day of fishing, what did you actually use? It was probably like 3 or 4 things. Yeah. So those are the 3 or 4 things you just need to bring in your bag, and so that's where that little bag is so perfect, right? It holds. It actually holds more than what you actually need if you're smart about it. So that's been a fun one, and that one's actually changing for this year. So a little sneak preview for our ICAST is going to be Urban Angler. We're calling it the 2.0, where the original one had a 1.5 liter bladder in the back, and that was primarily for guys bank fishing Sierras, whatever you're out, it's hot, so you can stay hydrated, and kind of took that idea from the cycling world and the moto world to where hydration's a big deal, and apparently anglers don't care about water and they want more tackle storage, believe it or not. So we replaced that back pocket where it holds the bladder, and we built a spot that holds a Plano 3700.
Oh, wow.
So the new one will have a 3700 pouch, a 3600 pouch, and it still has the spot for the 3500. So it's going to hold, a little bit more tackle. And I can see where a 3700 is needed, because it does have the longer trays.
Right.
So you can put in, bigger jerk baits or,
like the 170s.
Yeah, right. Just the bigger things that you need, where it wouldn't fit in a 3600. So really stoked about that. That'll be a fun one. Our duffel bags, we had a 35 liter this last year, which sold really well, and we had a lot of guys asking for a bigger one. So we've got a 50 liter duffel bag coming this year. A lure binder. So I use lure binders for not just lures. I have my pre-rigged wind-ons. Is all in one. I use one is just J hooks, one is circle hooks. And it's a little bit overkill, because normally when I go out on trips, I'm servicing like the entire boat, so I kind of have to have a ton of stuff. But tuna jigs, I've got piles of them. If the albacore come back, I'm ready. I've got 3 or 4 binders that just have the old Zookers and little daisy chains all rigged and ready to go, but they're just super convenient. So we've got a little binder bag coming, which would be really fun. That's just a nice little piece to add to the collection. And then just continuing with our current items, the tackle bags that we have been phenomenal. The 35, 36, and 3700 size. We've got the reel bags, the small and the medium.
I mean, I know we're friends and all that stuff outside and everything, but I kid you not, Robby. I've got a set of basically a one around of all those bags, and I take them everywhere. And I even have my wife actually taking them because it fit the big one. The one that has the two piece, I can't remember, the bottom layer and then the top layer.
Oh, the overnighter.
The overnighter, yeah. She actually uses it for herself and our kid, just to pack everything for weekend trips and all that. It works out perfectly. It's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of the bags, I mean, they're not designed specifically for fishing, right? There's all kinds of other applications you can use. I mean,
the roller bag is cool too.
Well, I think at the, was it the PCS show or the Fred Hall? One of the shows, I had like this group of guys, and they were like photographers. Mm-hmm. And they saw the small reel bag, and they're looking at it. Oh, what's this about? And I'm telling them it holds these reels, and So anyway, so they're playing with it. But long story short, they each bought them to hold their camera equipment.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because they can put their housing, they can put their lenses, and they can put all their little doodads in there, and it was all nice and secure and padded, and so they were all stoked. So that was pretty cool.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, they work, man. I'm super stoked on them.
Yeah. So that'll.
We were giving away those tackle bags too this year at all the shows for life members too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had the tackle backpack. Pile of lures. That was a great deal that you guys pulled off for all the events for the lifetime membership. So again, for those of you who are listening to this and you're not a life member, don't wait to sign up. But if you do wait, the time to do it is going to be at the Fred Hall show or the PCS show
or any of our events, because typically all of our events have a life member
that's true.
deal.
Yep.
Like that one too. So
so that's just a great deal.
Yeah.
And so we thank you for obviously getting that stuff, and you're helping support AFTCO. But at the end of the day, we're here to do one thing, and that's to get more membership to CCA.
Yeah. What else is coming out?
Yeah, so we've got a multi-tool. So we've had really good success with our fillet knives, and the company that manufactures our fillet knives, we came out with a multi-tool that's going to be focused. I want to say more like for the freshwater guy, but obviously it'll work in saltwater. So it's got like the blade that you're used to with our fillet knives, and so it's that same general blade, but it does have a serrated area. So if you do need to cut through, rope, like if you've got your anchor line or something gets caught up in the prop, so you've got a serrated area to cut rope. It's got a little scissor to it that cuts braid, just absolutely awesome. And then towards the bottom of the blades, it's got like a little half moon shape, and that cuts mono. So the problem that you get if you ever use like crimps and stuff, and if you don't get a clean cut, the crimp doesn't go over. It's got that kind of mushroomed head type of a deal, to where if you cut the mono in that little half moon shape area, it cuts it clean, cuts it nice and flat. So that's really cool. And it's got a little Phillips head screwdriver to it. So again, we're thinking like the freshwater bass guy, if screws coming loose or what have you, it's got one built in. You can tighten it all up. It's got a little hook hone in there for anybody that wants to sharpen hooks. So that one's coming out. So that'll be a fun new toy.
That's cool.
I think that's one of the most underrated things that should be added to anybody's tackle box is some kind of screwdriver, whether it's a Phillips or a flathead or just the tool that you need for your reel. I've seen countless reels just come off their clamps, and it's a mad scramble to find to find any type of tool to fix it.
Yeah, I've always had. I think in all my tackle bags, there's a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver and all.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always been the savior on the boat side. You're talking about, Tony, like, who's got a screwdriver? Something happened to my reel or what have you. But
relying on the boat, and then ask a deckhand. They go down the engine room trying to find something scrambling, fish are biting, and all that stuff. Have one yourself. Saves a bunch of time and effort. Absolutely. So moving on, like our glove line
continues to grow, and this year we put a lot of emphasis on colorways. So
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
new color additions to our gloves, pretty much like across the board. Other than like the Wire Max, which is our high end glove, everything else got new colorways added to it. So that'll be really nice moving forward. And then we also did because we're so offshore focused, a lot of these big yachts, everything's like color coordinated, right? So what we've noticed is, you have like the AFTCO Gold Gaff, you have the AFTCO Gold Belt, we did the bait shaker, we've got all of these, the bait nets, all of these things are set like AFTCO Gold. So like what else could we add to that deal that a yacht guy would need?
The gold line.
The gold line. So we did a deck brush. So it's a 5-foot aluminum brush. It's got like the Sure Hold adapter. Comes with a standard brush head, a screw-in style. But I think the cool thing with this deck brush is no matter what deck brush you have, it'll work. So like the Sure Hold has like the pin style.
Yeah.
And then like the West Marine and the other brands have the screw-in style. So our deck brush will work for all of them.
Yeah.
And then it'll also work for all the attachments that Sure Hold has. And so they've got like chamois and mops and all kinds of different gizmos and gadgets. That
It looks like a gaff too. That's cool.
Yeah. So we did that in the AFTCO Gold, and then we also did a fiberglass version in the black. We have a lot of guys, the inshore crowd back east uses a lot of black gaffs. So we did a black deck brush so they can be cool too, to make sure all their stuff is matchy.
Of course.
And then we did an attachment piece that will go to either the aluminum or the fiberglass, which is going to be a D hooker, and that basically just pins in. It's your standard like upside down, right side U shaped piece. So if you've got a fish next to the boat, you need to release it, and a toothy critter. That piece pops into your deck brush handle, and then you can hold on to the line, and you can either push the hook out or you can pull it out depending on where it's hooked in the mouth. Yeah. So the D-hooker, that's going to be
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Just a fun little add-on thing.
Yeah.
Something that that AFTCO, just something that we can do pretty easy, right? We're already bending gaffs, so bending this little piece made it super simple. And then part of AFTCO is obviously like conservation and
of course
what have you. And so I was doing a study on just like release devices. And I remember back in the day, there was this device called a snooter. And it basically was like a lasso attached to a pole that you could put over a billfish. And what this allows you to do is secure the billfish next to the boat, but you're keeping the billfish kind of away from the boat. So if you reach down and try to grab a billfish over the gunnel, a couple things can happen. One, it's very dangerous. There's actually on one of Anthony Shea's Bad Company videos, one of his captains took I think it was like a 700 or 800 pound blue marlin, bucked, and it got him like right next to his eyeball. So it's a safety thing, and then also protects your boat.
Yeah.
So if he starts thrashing, you can hold him a little bit further away from the boat. And then the fish himself, right? So you don't want the fish to be smashing up against the boat. He's just injuring himself. So this just allows you to kind of get the fish next to the boat, calm him down, get a nice hook, release. And more importantly, when you're releasing billfish, normally like the boat's in gear and you got to swim them.
Yeah.
Well, if your gunnel's high, you're leaning way over the side of the boat. I've seen tons of videos to where like the fish is on its side, and they're trying to swim. It's not right. So having that, this shaft added, on the snooter, it allows you to lean over the side of the boat and actually submerge the fish.
Yeah.
So then you can swim the fish back to life. And then when he comes back to life, you just release it. The noose comes undone. You slide it off the bill, and then you get a nice clean release. So that'll be a fun one. Obviously, It's very niche-y. Right, there's not a whole lot of big marlin guys out there anymore like there used to be, but just from safety and just conservation, just making sure that the marlin are taken care of, it's something that fit in the AFTCO brand obviously very well. So
yeah, and conservation, obviously, I mean, we can go to town and talk about a whole hour on AFTCO's commitment to conservation and to organizations like CCA and everyone else, but I mean, really, you're developing projects or products for for the sake of conservation, like that one too, which is a good thing overall.
Yeah. So the dehooker, the snooter, the whole EKGMA process. Obviously, you're catching fish, but you're doing it in the right way. You're if you follow the process, the fish last longer. Therefore, you don't need to keep as many. So we're always just looking at ways to grow that through products.
Yeah, for sure. Well, EKGMA, that's been around for going on 3 years now,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yep.
How's that going?
It's awesome. It's been such a fun project to where like year over year, like the first year I did it and I was at the shows,
I remember that
the
presentation.
people that and the questions that I got were basically they were calling me a liar.
Yeah.
And which is fine, whatever. But and I told every one of them, I said, buy it and try it, and if it doesn't work, come back to me and I'll take care of you some way, shape, or form. But I guarantee you will love the outcome of a fish process this way. So you get the early adopters, right? You get the handful of guys that already kind of knew about it, that studied up on it maybe a little bit from, seeing videos in Japan or what have you. And then so like year 2 was like, that was the fun year. Because then I had all those guys from the year before that came in and they're like, Robby, oh my gosh, like game changer. This thing's incredible. And, so then this past year, even more guys. I get emails, probably quite a few throughout the year, of just people asking for, advice or just complimenting us on, bringing this to them and just simplifying the whole procedure. So it's just been a lot of fun seeing that grow to where it's at. And, and it's a total grassroots deal. But even seeing like some sport boats, they're starting to pick it up. We have a lot more charter boats, like 6-pack operations, to where they're promoting, that they're going to harvest their fish using the EKGMA method, to where it's, not only does the fish taste better, it lasts longer. And I think that's the big benefit. So, we're going to continue to promote that. I think it's perfect for AFTCO. It's perfect for the anglers. It's just great, all around.
And I think go for it.
That was going to be my next question. If you had more of a receptive audience from the sport boat side or the recreational, the private boater?
Well, definitely the private boater, because they can do whatever they want on their boat. And, the big hurdle on sport boats, and I can totally see this, just from my experience on running boats, I don't necessarily want to have my passengers wailing around a fillet knife. We've all seen that guy on the boat that's maybe had too much to drink, and so we want to make sure we're all safe, and that guy keeps himself safe. But what I continue to tell our customers or guys that reach out is, when you get on a sport boat, just ask the boat captains or the deckhand and say, hey, I would like to EKG my fish. I have the wire, I have a knife, but I'm asking your permission to use it, or can you make the tail cut for me to do the wire? And I don't believe I've had a single person tell me that a sport boat captain or a crew member said no.
And in some cases, they might actually do it for you too, because they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, well, for sure. Like Tim Ekstrom on the Star has been doing it forever, and he's never really promoted it. But I know he's been doing it a lot longer than we have, for sure. And it's just going to continue to grow. I think the hard part too is, Tony, I think you know best. Everything that you guys do on a sport boat, it's, you have your processes and your procedures, and you've got it down to the T, right? It's perfect. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, you need to make a cut on a fish, you need to do the wire, you need to do the bleed and all that kind of thing. So now you're adding processes to when the fish process. When it comes over the side of the boat, right? You got to do more steps. So getting that going is going to take a little bit of time. Whether or not all the sport boats out there will do this process, I highly doubt it, but I think it'll continue to grow with just the passengers that are going on sport boats, but it definitely is going to grow big time in the private boat community.
Is it more so long range boats that are more willing to do it, or kind of a big mix? Well, the only boat really that I know that does it for sure is Tim, and then that's
primarily like the long range trips that he's doing. I think the hard part for those boats, if it's a pick bite, which normally that's how fishing is, then doing the process is a piece of cake. It's when it goes full speed that everybody's they're all overwhelmed, right? So their goal is to gaff a fish, bring it over the rail because another guy's yelling gaff, gaff, gaff. And so he's got to run to the bow and gaff that one. And next thing you know, there's a guy on the stern, he's ready to go. So that makes it more difficult, I think, on the sport boats is their job is to make sure that fish comes over the rail, right? And then if they have time, then they can do that. But now they're cleaning up, they're trying to get the fish, tagged and put in the RSW. And so you're just adding a little bit of time to the procedure. So that's where I don't think on the sport boat side, it's going to work all that well.
And over time, it'll be, it'll be so, done by a lot more people and all that. So the process could be not simplified, but basically sped up a little bit as people or deckhands are getting good at it.
Well, yeah, it's no different than anything you do when you're learning something.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it's tough, right? And then the more you do it, the quicker it becomes, right? It's like riding a bike, right? So like you get on the bike and you might get a couple pedals in and you fall over and you get back up and you do it again, and next thing you know, you're off to the races, right? And everything's smooth, and that's just a learning curve kind of with anything. But the one thing I can say about the process is it's not difficult. Once you do have it figured out, it's pretty darn simple to do. Like when we were down in our sales meeting down in Mexico, we caught a couple Dorado, and I had one of my sales reps in Texas and then one of our sales managers back east on the boat, and they'd never seen the process. And so I brought the fish over the side and, here's where the brain's located on Dorado, bang, see the reaction that the fish gave. And then here's the knife, open up the gill. Here's the membrane behind the gills, so you cut that and immediately, blood starts to pour out. And so I, put the fish in a bucket, and actually it wasn't a bucket. It was the stern next to the live well on this boat. Typical, sport boat operation down in Mexico.
Yeah.
So it's like just like this overflow box, I guess you could call it. At least there was running water, so I had the fish in there and let them out, and then I made the tail cut and cracked it open. And in Dorado, I mean, gosh, the neural canal is gigantic.
Oh, really?
So to see it was like, that hole right there. And so I handed the guy the wire and was like, that's where it goes. And so they did it. And then the next fish we caught, I just let them do it, and they did it no problem. So it was, pretty cool.
Because, I mean, to me, that's the toughest part, to where identifying where that circuit breaker needs to actually go in, whether it's a Dorado or a bluefin or whatever. That's really the toughest part. Everything else is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and that's why I always recommend the tail cut. So if you expose the spine of a fish through the tail, you can visibly see it. And the neural canal, or the hole that holds the spinal cord of a fish, it's super visible. So you know exactly where it goes, to where, like, you see a lot of guys that have done this for a long time or watch some videos in Japan and they go through the head. Those guys know it by feel. That's next level stuff. And, a lot of our guys just don't have the patience for it. So I've always talked about through my seminars of, I don't want people to get upset, right, or frustrated. So it's definitely frustrating going through the head where you visibly can't see it, versus turn them over, cut the tail, bang, it's right there. It just goes right in, and it's piece of cake.
Yeah. Does doing a tail cut make it a little bit difficult to handle the fish later on, or is it more one of those things where you just have to deal with it?
No. So what we recommend is, so you would go, from the tail up, maybe 2 inches. So you're actually into the body. So you're like into that tendon zone, like of the back of the fish there. So you take your fillet knife and you kind of just slice it down until you feel the spine of the fish. And then you lay your blade kind of flat over the spine. And then I just take my hand and I pop the top of the blade. So you're severing the spine, right? So the spine is now in half, but the underside of that fish is still intact. It's still intact, still connected. So the tail basically just folds over. So now you've got yourself like a little handle. So handling the fish, once you're done, the tail is still there. It's just in half. And normally, I mean, obviously, like giant tunas or whatever, it might be too much body weight to lift it up by the tail by just the skin and the little bit of meat or tendons that are still there. But like yellowtail, Dorado, all of our other local species,
Easy to handle.
Easy to handle, no problem.
Yeah. That's very cool. The whole process, I mean, it seems like the entire industry, anglers in general, really embrace this process. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Again, it's been a fun deal. I actually recently I was a guy from IGFA reached out and said there's a guy in Australia, Dr. Ben Diggles.
It's a very cool last name.
Yeah. So he and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but he's the wizard in Australia. And so and this is super recent. So I've got an email out to him basically introducing myself, what I'm trying to do. He's got an email back to me on what he's done. And I had another email back to him as to like, how can I help? But he's actually taken like all the fish in Australia and x-rayed them. And so he's got, and the purpose of that is to show people exactly where the brain is located.
Oh.
So he'll take the X-ray and then he does like a see-through overlay of the fish and like lays it over the top of the X-ray, but you can still see like where the brain is at. And so like that's his whole deal. And I thought, man, that would be really cool. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So I'm hoping he's gonna give me the information on how do I do that. Like what X-ray machine do we need? Like what do we need? What do we need to do to get this done? Because I think that would be a tremendous amount of help. I want to say the majority of our fish that we catch are fairly easy versus like in Australia, like a lot of their snappers, their head is like a Dorado, right? So they're these big bulge heads. And so like, where's the brain located? Yeah. And I think the one fish for us would be like a halibut, right? So like a flat side fish, like where's the brain located?
Where do you find that?
So I think, so that's kind of like the next phase, and it'll be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to learn more from this guy because he has, again, a lot more data to show what the process does, the longevity of the fillets and all that kind of stuff, and he's got that all dialed in. But just to learn how he did that, and then hopefully we can do that for our local fishery.
And I do like that where it's like, it's not just about, at AFTCO, it's not just about releasing a product and you're just going to let that perform in the market, where 3 years later, you're still learning about the process on how to try to improve that too.
Yeah. And something like this, I mean, if you really wanted to dive like deep into it, I mean, you could do a whole data study on just longevity. How long does a fish last filleted in your refrigerator in a vacuum sealed deal? Like what's after day one, what does the meat look like or taste like or
The
whatever?
decomposition rate.
Right, exactly. And then day 2, 3, 4, 5, day 12, 15, so on and so forth. And then, what's the cutoff date, right? And so, that type of information I think would be really interesting. But to be able to pull something off like that, I mean, you've got to be really, really dedicated. I've got other things to do, but
I was going to say, you're going to sign up for the tasting test, right?
Yeah, no. That's for those of you who don't know me. I'm I guess an expert on the process. I'm pretty good at catching fish, but I do not eat them. Maybe sushi or sashimi.
Once every 5 years.
The second it hits a grill or it hits a pan, I'm out.
Oh man, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Well, that was last year at the barbecue.
Oh yes, I remember that.
There was so at the LA South barbecue, which we'll plug November 10th this year. But we put on a big barbecue, and the chef was there, and he had this big plate of white meat, and to me it really looked like chicken, and I threw a chunk of it in my mouth and bit down, and I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to serve our people the worst tasting chicken on the planet. And I overhear somebody say, gosh, this bluefin tuna is fantastic. And I thought, oh my God, I just put a big chunk of tuna in my mouth. And it was everything I could to keep it down. We'll keep it at that. Not a fun experience.
Oh man, I remember that. That was pretty hilarious. Well, speaking of CCA, I have to give it to you, man. Ever since the beginning, at least definitely for me, more so, since the beginning of CCA California. You've been basically front and center behind us, supporting us, doing everything you possibly can for us because you care so much about the organization and what we do.
Yeah, it's my livelihood. I feed my family by the tackle business. I just respect anglers. I respect everybody in this industry. I want to continue to see it thrive. I think in like reality, looking back, if I didn't have fishing growing up, I would have been a really bad kid. It kept me in check. I was a big bass tournament guy, back in the high school days. So while all my buddies were out, tearing it up Friday night and Saturday night, I couldn't do that. I had to rig tackle Friday night. I had to wake up at 2:00 in the morning to drive out to Lake Paris to go fish the bass tournament the next day. And, you'd be there all day. And then Saturday night, you were too tired to do anything. And then, Sundays, boat maintenance, whatever. And so it just kept me out of a lot of mischief, I would say. And then just the passion that that I've always had for the sport. It's just, you can always learn from it. And I just love to see the newcomers when they come in and you can see like that passion and they want to learn. And I think it just does such good things for people that if this goes away, where else do we go? Where do we find this outlet? Yeah. And that's where CCA is here to make sure that, we have a future, that we can continue to go fishing, we continue to have fun and enjoy what God has given us and, these great fisheries that we have. And we're here to protect it. And but at the same time, we want to enjoy it, right? Yeah. And so that's just my big thing with CCA is, there's not a lot of volunteers, as we know, that really want to do this, but somebody has to, and it's good people, like Bill Shedd, Dave Pfeiffer with Shimano, like Kerry Graves with Daiwa. They're doing a bunch of stuff, but you like name these big organizations, and they all see it, and they're all behind it. Coast has always done great things, and Okuma's done great things. Yeah. Gosh, sorry.
I won't tell Doug. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry, Doug. But no, but it's just great to see these industry leaders that really step up, and they're doing this in their free time, and they don't really have much, but it's the future of obviously like the businesses that they run, but they're all true anglers, right? They want to see it thrive, they want to see it grow, and they want to see, I think more importantly, other people enjoy the sport.
If we don't fight for it, it will be lost in a heartbeat, especially in this state.
Absolutely. I mean, what you guys do, you, Tony, and Wayne, and it seems like it's every week you guys are sending me an email on some new thing that Sacramento's got on the table, and you guys are doing everything you can to get it way out in front of it, so it never makes it to the table to get signed off on or what have you. 30-30, the lead ban, and just all these things that CCA has done, and it's awesome because without CCA, gosh, if 30-30 goes through, like
there's nowhere to go.
I mean, we're pretty much done. So just everybody out there that's listening. I mean, if you enjoy fishing and you want to see fishing in the future, not only for yourself, but maybe you have kids or you have grandkids or friends or whatever, you need to support CCA, and it's a simple membership. Is all we really ask is just to join. But if you can participate in one of the chapter banquets, if you can,
hell, go fishing with us on our charter.
Yeah, charter. We got all kinds of charter trips. We always got fun things that we're doing. Just participate, and those that can afford it, becoming a life member, that's a big deal. It's something that that I did, and it's difficult, right? It's $1,000. Not that we all have $1,000 bill sitting in our pocket that's just burning a hole, right? So you got to plan that one out, and but I'm proud I did it, right? Yeah. It's something that I'm just proud of, but I just want more and more people to get behind this, because the more people we have that are members, the bigger voice we have, or you guys, meaning Tony, Chris, Wayne, The whole like GR committee,
Yeah.
like it speaks volumes, right? So we just need to get, more and more people involved. And
The amount of people that we have in our quarter, meaning members that we represent, the more we get listened to, the more effective we can be.
yeah,
Strength in numbers.
Yeah.
absolutely strength in numbers. So yeah, I'm happy to see, where we're at. I'm loving the growth pattern that we're on, and it's just going to continue to get, better and better, as you and Tony continue to, kick butt out there and do like this podcast, for example. Like, you don't need to do this, but I think it's a great way to make the voice bigger, right?
Yeah.
Just get one person to listen to it, and that's the other thing too, guys that are listening to this. Share this.
Yeah.
Tell your friends about it. Hey, listen to the CCA Cal podcast. There's some pretty cool things that are said on there, and that'll definitely help grow the community, just to get more people involved, and that's what we need.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you had mentioned earlier that you take your son fishing almost every weekend at the lake and all that stuff. First question, when did you start fishing as a kid? And B, I mean, really, that what your son is, that's why CCA exists. We're trying to do it for the future, for our kids, your kids, my grandkids, everyone.
Yeah. I started fishing, I want to say I was like 3 or 4. It was my birthday. It's crazy. I can actually like envision this.
Nice.
I'm 47, I think.
You think?
We were in Mission Bay, and it was around my birthday, so it was in May, and my grandfather bought me like the tackle box push button combo kit. And
The one that you have the little push button right
little push
here.
button reel,
Yep.
and little metal tackle box, and had some stuff in it, and and I didn't even know what fishing was, so my grandpa rigs it all up, and my brother, my older brother, rigs his stuff up, and we're in Mission Bay. We've got bobbers with salmon eggs, and believe it or not, my brother caught a halibut
Wow.
on a bobber with some salmon eggs on it. And I didn't even catch the fish. I just witnessed it. And from that day on, done. That was the hook. That was the drug.
Nice.
And it just morphed into had to be fishing, every day or every chance that I possibly got. And that's it. So
now that you bring that up, and Tony, get ready to chime in here. I still remember that vivid memory as well. I was probably more or less the same age, maybe a little bit older, but I remember the first fish I ever caught. We were camping with my grandparents down at Lake Skinner, not too far away.
yep.
And it was just one of those days where nothing was biting, and we were just kind of sitting around doing nothing, watching everything and all that. And then basically, I think my sister caught a fish, and I remember just being, basically super excited and all that stuff, but also super jealous too because she got the fish and I didn't.
Of course.
Yeah,
Naturally.
yeah. And then they had gone, back to the camper to go, I don't know, to go cook dinner or something. I don't know. And then basically we were just about to wrap up, and then all of a sudden I get bit, and sure as crap, it was a massive, it's stupid, a massive catfish.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so cool to me at the time. Just being able to pull on that thing and just reel it up, and we were fishing from the beach, and it was cool. It was a memory that I'll never forget for the rest of my life, and ultimately that was my hook as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, Tony, what was yours before we wrap it up here?
Gosh, I feel like such a black sheep with my story. Like my family, we never really traveled. I've only been to a handful of states, but because my dad worked in Alaska, that was like our true introduction to, the outdoors and to fishing and all that. And for us, my dad was a big freshwater guy. We can't put him on a boat because he gets too seasick. So for us, it was me and my brothers. I have 2 younger brothers. So initially it was just me and the brother that's younger than me. But then eventually it was all of us kind of hanging out with dad on the rivers up in the Kenai Peninsula. And my brothers and I would go out on the boats. And I think I don't remember the first freshwater fish that I caught. It would have been like a Dolly Varden, but I was too young to remember. But I remember the feeling of being on the water, and that's what stuck out to me the most was being able to be in the most beautiful place, just away from people as like a 10-year-old and being out on the water and feeling a fish that's 300 feet beneath you pull on your line and you bring it up and you see your halibut. And it was, for me, it, that was my crux, I guess. But no, it
Nice.
was just, it's a very surreal feeling, ethereal. I think I call it an ethereal feeling when you're out on the water. Everything just goes away. And
Yeah.
that's why people go out fishing, like at the bare bones of it. It's a release from the day to day, from the reality, and that's, for a lot of people, that's their happy place. My happy place, one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, people put a lot of emphasis nowadays on therapy to where, oh, I'm seeing a therapist or for whatever reason. It's not a bad thing. But in a way, fishing, it's kind of like therapy for all of us.
Oh, it's
like,
mine for sure. Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that all I need to do is go fishing on an overnight trip or something, clear my mind, and just go out and be out there and come back, and whatever's waiting for me is going to come back and all that stuff. But yeah, it's super. You almost really can't describe it. It's just so necessary for all of us.
Absolutely. And Tony, that's cool. I don't know how many people in the world could say that their first fish ever caught was Dolly Varden. Like,
That is not. You don't hear that every day.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Robby, we're coming up on an hour here. I know we talked about what's coming out for ICAST and all that stuff, but anything we need to know about for the rest of the year, and anything new and exciting?
Yeah. So,
We'll see you at ICAST for sure.
Before ICAST, we have the Anthony Shea
Yes.
event, which is coming up here pretty quick. So the South LA chapter will be heavily involved with volunteering to help out the state board, the committee for the state board for that event, just to make sure that goes off without a hitch. So that's a super fun event, and is becoming more and more important for CCA. So that one, yeah, super cool. We do have the LA South chapter. The barbecue is going to be November 10th. More details to come. Trying to I don't want to say switch it up so much, but
Make adjustments.
making some adjustments. I'm talking to a few guys to do some seminars prior to actually eating, just to have something else there. But I don't want it to be the standard seminar that you've seen 100 times at the Bart Hall show or the PCS show. So I've actually asked Michael Folks, legendary West Coast guy, and he's been working on his documentary, and I want him to come and do a seminar and share just the process, right, and all that stuff. And if we get lucky, maybe he'll show us some footage.
You don't hear from him every day too. I mean, he's super busy doing his documentary.
He's in his dungeon trying to get this done.
Yeah.
I mean, he is cranking it out. I used to talk to him a bunch, and now I talk to him not a lot, but but still reach out. But I know he's full speed on pulling it off, and I can't wait to see the outcome of that project. But
Me too.
But I think it would be a cool seminar to hear why he wanted to do it, the processes, just the whole thing, right? And I think that would be a really cool, 20, 30 minute, seminar. And then the other seminar that I want to do is have Jeff from Sushi on a Roll come out and do how do you break down a fish and how do you make sushi.
That's pretty important or valuable.
Yeah, and again, it's a seminar that nobody's really seen or done, and I think a lot of guys would be stoked just to see how he does it and how how do you make the perfect block of tuna, right? And he can show you how to do that and make all the cuts and what have you. So I figured that would be cool. And then the third one, if I can pull it off, I wanted to do a live EKG May. and actually have a live fish at the event and perform the ikejime process.
That'd be cool.
And just to show guys, that whole thing. But if that doesn't work out, I think the other 2 seminars would be great. So we'll have the seminars, and then we'll eat, and then last year we did the casting golf deal. So we're trying to like fine tune that. So that started off as like the super sleeper last year. But as guys started to do it, they were like full speed into it. So the excitement was just incredible. So we're going to try to do that towards the end. But
there's a lot of competition out there last year.
Yeah, but it's, we put on events all the time. So now it's just timing, right? So you want to do seminars, you need to eat, you need to do your raffles, and then you want to do this golf. I don't want to have people at, the club there for 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to try to get this done in, 3, 4, 5 hours tops. So we got to work on the schedule there. But in essence, that's what our plans are for that event.
It's going to be fun, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, so November 10th, that chapter has always done a phenomenal job with raffle prizes. I want to say the raffle prizes we have there are absolutely incredible. The silent auction items were always great, and depending on what we pull off this year for a live auction, we've had some killer things there too. So that'll be a lot of fun. So looking forward to that. But that's a ways out, not until November.
Yeah.
And then between now and then, right? So all the other chapters, I know like Luke's got in the Orange County's got their golf tournament, and there's probably a few other ones out there. But I know the golf one, I'm proud to say I helped kind of get that off the ground and move to the LA chapter. But that's such a fun event.
Yeah.
So again, guys, if you're out there looking for a fun way to give back to CCA and then actually like have a really awesome day, like the golf event for sure, and then the LA South Barbecue is just a great way to support CCA.
Are you going to play this year?
I hope so. I forget, last year something came up and I couldn't make it, but I would love to go. I would love to go be just a guest, be a participant versus the years before, running these events, you're just running around like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to get everything done and make sure it's all perfect. But
I remember that.
But it would be super cool to go and play and just enjoy the day and enjoy the banquet that they put on and see the awards and, maybe bid on a few items and get more tackle, which I don't need, but always, got a sport. So.
Well, you're just basically compiling stuff for your banquet too.
Yeah.
It's like recycling.
No, absolutely. Well, that's another great event. I did the Topgolf last year with the Inland Empire, and that was so much fun. God, we had a blast at that. And I think I bought my normal like $100 worth of raffle tickets, and I won like 2 or 3 different gift baskets. And yeah, like to your point, it's all going to be recycled. That'll just be at the LA South because they had some. I got Costa sunglasses. I got like Mustad tackle bags. There's like a lot of really neat stuff that I won at that event that I don't need personally, but I can certainly put that back into the arsenal to help make more money for CCA.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with all that being said, how do we get our hands on AFTCO gear? How do we do the AFTCO deal, man?
Yeah, so we're at pretty much all the local tackle stores, so definitely check those guys out. If they don't have what you want, please ask them to bring it in. That does me a huge favor. Outside of that, you can go to the website, AFTCO.com, and everything is there. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back. Definitely not within a year, but or not having a year before that. So we'll have to have you back later on this year, and we'll give kind of a recap of how we're doing.
Yeah, post barbecue.
Yeah, post barbecue, post
November, December. Yeah, that would be a fun one.
Yeah, I honestly think, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Robby, I think with your help and with the rest of all of our chapters, I think bigger and much better things are to come for CCA California. Just with so many changes going on, so many events, so many growth, I would say, especially having Tony on board now, it's only going to get so much better for not only all of us, you as a volunteer, us as employees, but for the entire industry too. I think we have a bright future.
Yeah, I totally agree. and I guess my last little pitch to the audience out there is if you want to step up and volunteer, please reach out to myself, any of the chapter presidents. I'm sure you can call Tony or you can call Chris. We'll get you set up.
Yeah, you're looking for more board members and all that stuff?
That was my next thing is board members. If you really want to step up and volunteer a little bit of extra time, it's not outrageous. We're not working you to death by any means, but if you really want to step up and help, I suggest becoming a board member for one of the chapters. And that's, like Chris, you mentioned it earlier, it's the grassroots, it's the heart and soul of what CCA is and the impact that you can have. Working on a board is tremendous, and the joy that I get when I do these events, I'm positive that the rest of the board members have those same feelings, to where they know what they're doing is good and it's good for the future. And so come on out and help out if you can. And if you can't be a board member, be a volunteer. If you can't be a volunteer, support the events. If you can't support the events, just join.
Yeah. Yes, that's for sure. And we also have, just to throw out one more pitch, we also do have a pledge program as well, where you can donate as little as $10 a month to CCA and do your part. And really that helps out substantially, more than you actually think. And you can't even eat for $10 nowadays.
No, you certainly can't.
Yeah.
Well, heck, we had $25 hamburgers at the MDRA.
Yeah, that was not pretty. But Robby, you're the best. Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Tony, another fascinating episode. They get better and better.
Another good one.
Yep. It's always nice to have great friends like Robby Gant.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Well, with that said, thank you guys so much for joining us this week on the CCA California podcast. Make sure to go to follow us on Instagram at CCA California. We didn't even talk about it today, but make sure you register for the 2024 Star Tournament. That's going on right now, right now, all the way to September 2nd. We've got all kinds of good stuff going on. We're giving away 10 grand prizes, including an 18-foot Parker from West Coast Marine. Also, we've got weekly prizes where we're about to announce our first ever weekly prize winner right after this podcast. So stay tuned. Also, not basically more good stuff going on. We've got a social media contest happening on Instagram. Make sure to go post all of your submission fish on Instagram. Tag us, tag CCA California, tag the Star Tournament page, tag Copes Tackle and Rod Shop as well. And that's all sponsored by Copes Tackle and Rod Shop. With that, we will see you guys next week. Take care.